Welcome to True Crime Tuesdays, a weekly feature at Mark McNeese's Fearsome Fiction Podcast. Every Tuesday, we'll take a break from the make-believe and delve into the dark heart of reality. True crime, dirty deeds, and shattered lives. Some of them will be solved, and some of them will forever be as cold as the grave. True crime narration provided by Wondervox.
This week, we're heading to Chicago, 1893, to a building that looked from the street like nothing more than an ordinary hotel. 90-plus rooms, shops on the ground floor, a friendly, charming owner who greeted guests by name. But this hotel had trapdoors, airtight vaults, a chute that ran straight from the upper floors to the basement, gas lines the owner could control from his private bedroom, piped into guest rooms while people slept. They called him a doctor, a pharmacist, a businessman. History remembers him by a different title, America's first serial killer. This is the story of H.H. Holmes and the building the newspapers would come to call the Murder Castle.
Herman Webster Mudgett was born in 1861 in Gilmanton, New Hampshire, to a strict religious family. By most accounts, he was a bright, unusual child, fascinated with anatomy, prone to cruelty toward animals, and capable of a kind of charm that unsettled people even as it disarmed them. He studied medicine at the University of Michigan, where classmates and instructors later recalled a young man skilled at manipulating cadavers for insurance fraud schemes, stealing bodies, disfiguring them, and using fraudulent policies to collect payouts on fictional deaths. By the time he arrived in Chicago in the mid-1880s, Mudgett had become H.H. Holmes, a new name for a new life, and the first of many identities he would wear like a change of clothes. He took a job at a drugstore in the suburb of Englewood, working for an elderly woman named Elizabeth Holton. When her husband died, Holmes offered to buy the pharmacy. Mrs. Holton later vanished. Holmes told neighbors she'd moved to California to live with relatives. No one ever heard from her again. With the drugstore as his base and Chicago's World's Fair on the horizon, an event expected to draw hundreds of thousands of visitors to the city, Holmes began construction on the building across the street. He told contractors it would be a hotel, and he made sure no single crew ever saw the whole plan. Workers were hired, paid, and fired in rapid succession, often before finishing their portion of the job, so that no one but Holmes understood the building's true design. What went up over the following months was a maze, hallways that turned back on themselves, doors that opened onto brick walls, staircases leading nowhere, rooms with peepholes drilled into the walls so Holmes could watch his guests. Some rooms were fitted with airtight seals and gas lines that ran to a control panel in his private quarters, allowing him to pump gas into a room and asphyxiate whoever was inside. A chute connected the upper floors directly to the basement, where Holmes kept dissection tables, vats of acid, a crematorium, and a stretching rack he used, investigators would later believe, to strip flesh from bone. When the World's Fair opened in 1893, Holmes had his hotel ready. He advertised rooms to young women arriving in the city alone, fair-goers, job seekers, women looking for a fresh start. He was, by every account, magnetic, tall, well-dressed, soft-spoken, with pale blue eyes that people remembered decades later. He proposed marriage easily and often. He took out life insurance policies on employees and lovers alike, then found reasons for them to disappear. The exact number of victims has never been settled. Holmes himself confessed to 27 murders after his arrest, though several of the people he claimed to have killed later turned up alive, and detectives believe the real number could be far higher. Some estimates run past 200, given how many guests and employees who passed through the building were never definitively accounted for. What is certain is a pattern. Women hired as secretaries or mistresses, insured, and disappeared. Guests who checked in and never checked out. Children of associates who vanished alongside their parents. Holmes's downfall came not from Chicago, but from an insurance scheme gone wrong. In 1894, he partnered with a career criminal named Benjamin Pitezel on a fraud involving a faked death and a life insurance payout. Instead of faking it, Holmes killed Pitezel for real, then tracked down 3 of Pitezel's children, Alice, Nellie, and Howard, under the pretense of reuniting them with their mother. He murdered all 3, in different cities over the following weeks. It was this crime that finally caught up with him. A former cellmate of Holmes's, aware of the insurance scam, tipped off police, and Detective Frank Geyer spent months tracing Holmes's movements across the country before finding the children's remains, the girls in a rented house in Toronto, the boy in Indianapolis. The case made national headlines, and it was only after Holmes's arrest that investigators turned their attention back to the building in Englewood. When police searched the so-called castle, they found the trapdoors, the gas chambers, the dissection room, the kiln. A fire, possibly set deliberately to destroy evidence, damaged much of the upper floors before a full search could be completed. But what remained was enough. Newspapers across the country ran the story, and the building earned the name history remembers it by. Holmes was tried and convicted for the murder of Benjamin Pitezel. He was hanged in Philadelphia on May 7, 1896. In the days before his execution, he gave conflicting confessions, claiming at various points to have killed dozens, then recanting, then claiming he felt himself physically transforming into a figure of evil, his face changing shape. Whether that was manipulation, a final performance for the public that had made him infamous, or something closer to genuine breakdown, no one has ever fully agreed. The murder castle itself didn't last much longer than its owner. It burned down in 1895. Before the trial had even concluded, arson was suspected but never proven. Today, a post office stands on the site in Englewood. Nothing marks what was there before, except the story, which has outlived the building by well over a century. Holmes is often cited as America's first serial killer, though what set him apart wasn't just the killing, it was the architecture of it. The building itself, engineered for confinement and murder, has made him a permanent fixture in true crime and horror alike, the subject of books, documentaries, and dramatizations ever since.
You're listening to Mark McNeese's Fearsome Fiction Podcast. Mysteries, thrillers, and rare finds. Fasten your headphones